I'll agree with that. Hey there, YouTube. This is the LonChaneyReviewer. Today I'm going to pull out another film from my top 10 favorite movies of all time. Today I'm going to talk about number 9. And number 9 today is Charlie Chaplin's 1925 masterpiece, The Gold Rush. Also, I want to note that 1925 is the most represented year in my top 10, actually. It's the only year on my top 10 list that actually appears twice. Once here my number 9 slot, and then again on my number 6 slot, Lon Chaney in The Phantom of the Opera. But enough of that. They're both silent, so let me just get started with this film. The Gold Rush might be Chaplin's most complete film in terms of his narrative. And what I mean by that is, you have films like The Circus or City Lights or The Great Dictator, where sometimes I feel the gags are meant for the theme or meant for the character, where I think this is meant for the story. This is a very story-driven narrative with some great characters. Now, if you have not seen The Gold Rush, I recommend it, but be mindful that there are two versions, which I'll talk about later. First off, there's the most important part of the film, the plot. You have the lone prospector, which is the tramp character, and he is trying to strike it rich in the gold rush. Along the way, he meets Big Jim and Black Larson. Now, Black Larson, along with Adenoid Hinkle, might be Chaplin's most evil characters. And Black Larson might be one of the only characters that ever gets killed in a Chaplin film. Interesting analysis. But anyway, these two characters he has to struggle against, to survive and get food. And that's really the first half hour. Next, you find out that he goes back to town and he falls in love with a dance hall girl, or she might be a prostitute, but that's just me hypothesizing. Georgia, played by Georgia Hale. And so Chaplin, wants to impress her and all that sort of stuff. And there's just a lot of great comedic sequences. Now, The Gold Rush, there's a lot. I want to talk about some of my favorite scenes. First off, my favorite entrance of the tramp character occurs in this movie. And that is when you see the title card, The Undaunted Lone Prospector, and then there was the Lone Prospector. You see the mountain cliff, and then it's like a dramatic build-up, and then you see Chaplin, the little tramp, walk on the cliff and almost fall off, and you're and it's just so goofy, not goofy, but it's just so anticlimactic that it's funny. And it's going to be the tramp, but you can't help but have a smile on your face. But anyway, so that's one scene. Another scene that I really like was the boot scene. Now, the thing with The Gold Rush is that it's based off of real events, and it's about how people are struggling to survive in the gold rush. There's cannibalism, there's people eating their shoes. There's a lot of that going on. There's murder in the gold rush. It's a very brutal film in a sense. I've showed it to my little cousins, but even then it's kind of, for a Chaplin film, it's pretty dark in some aspects, which is what I like about Chaplin films. They're dark, they're funny, but they also have a point to them. They're not just funny. They are films, even if you don't like the jokes, you can enjoy the dramatic structure of the film. Now, let me get into to Chaplin's character in this film, the tramp. He's obviously the tramp in this movie, and it's probably like the tramp that we all know, either this one or the one from City Lights, or maybe the kid, depending on your interpretation of the tramp. He is the outsider. He is really the outsider character, because when you think about it, a lot of the characters he's able to have relationships with are not really the most praised people. Like, you have Black Larson and Big Jim, who are either evil or crazy, and then you have Georgia, who is a dance hall prostitute, And then you have Hank Curtis, the guy he, was able to borrow a cabin from, who is not really in the town. He's like on the outskirts of town, and we only see him for a little bit. So a lot of his relationships are not with like a lot of his relationships are not with characters that are like the nicest people in the world. They're with people who are kind of outsiders, and sometimes they can't even accept him, which is really tragic. And there's a lot of scenes where you see Chaplin as the outsider, and that's what I really love about this film. The Georgia character. Georgia is probably the most interesting of Chaplin's leading ladies. I think a lot of them are fine, but she's just the most interesting because she's not just some Chaplin waif who's just like, ooh, yes, but she's a woman with her own opinions. She takes action, and she has spunk. Something that I think quite a few Chaplin lead ladies don't have, except for Paula Goddard in her films, because she's not really a leading lady in modern times. She's more of the sidekick. She's more of the co-lead, not just like, oh, I'm the waif, I'm the damsel in distress. No, she's a character that does take action. But I really do feel that Georgia Hale is the finest in the class of Chaplin leading ladies, like the romantic lead. Because I don't feel Paula Goddard's character in modern times is a romantic lead in a sense. It's more of a friendship. Big Jim, played by Max Swain, is really funny. Just some of his expressions in this movie are just so priceless. I mean, that in his beard is just so... He just has a beard. Black Larson. Black Larson's also a great character because he is probably the most realistic Chaplin villain. Because when you think about it, a lot of the Chaplin villains usually are the law. And, sometimes there are corrupt people who work in the law, but not everybody in the law is like a bad guy necessarily. But Black Larson, he's a bad guy, and you could see him existing not only in Chaplin's world, but also in our world. And basically my favorite gags in the film. Favorite gags have to be definitely the opening entrance of the tramp. Any scene with Jim Brown the bear. That was actually his name. Yes. I love it when Chaplin they're falling off the cabin. The cabin scene is really funny, and that miniature still kind of works. So now I'm going to talk about the two versions. There's the 42 version with Chaplin's narration, and then there's the silent version, which actually has Chaplin's score conducted by Timothy Brock on the Criterion edition. Now, here's my opinion of both versions. I enjoyed both, but I enjoyed the 25 version infinitely more. Because, as Timothy Brock put it, you didn't need that superfluous dialogue Chaplin was providing. You just needed the music. And the music did all the talking, in a sense. And it just works so well for the film. And then you have the 42 version, which Chaplin narrated, and there's a lot of scenes cut, and it's a different film in some ways, but it's still good. It's just not as good as the 25. Although Chaplin thought that the 42 version was the definitive be-all, end-all version of his 1925 film. A few years ago, or several years ago, David Gill and Kevin Brownlow restored the Gold Rush. It took several years to restore this film because Chaplin burned the original elements for the original Gold Rush, and we didn't know what footage was lost, but we were able to recover a decent amount, and that's the version that I enjoy the most, is the 1925 restored version by Kevin Brownlow, David Gill, and conducted by Timothy Brock's, interpretation of the Chaplin score from 1942. So, you should really check this out. I think the Criterion Blu-ray is amazing. I love this cover art. I wish I had it as a poster. And stay tuned for my next review, which should be Jurassic Park. That's going to be my next top 10 review. So, I'll see you guys later.